Welcome to the Silent Hill Ascension post show. This is still Layla, but look at this stranger I got over here. Oh my goodness, and it's not Eduardo, I'll tell you that much. Don, would you care to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Don. I'm the Genvid Studio Cinematics Director, and I am here to offer myself as Satyr for the Cult of Merge.
Yes, thank you so much. We understand this is a grave responsibility for you, but we really appreciate you taking on the task. Don, would you care to tell us a little bit about your background and your role as Studio Cinematics Director here at Genvid?
Yeah, okay. So I kind of oversee all the cinematics that all of the Genvid products actually have. We've done live action and game stuff. I come from a live action film background myself. So I'm like the last bastion of like edit, and I'm also like the first idea guy. So I'm kind of the guy who just like shoots out a bunch of crazy ideas, and then a bunch of people try to like make them all happen to varying degrees of success. The ones that don't succeed are mostly because they're stupid ideas in the first place on my part.
Yes, I'm one of the people tasked with, unfortunately, a lot of the times telling Don no.
Yeah, no, we don't need 30 cameras, no helicopters. It's fine. Just put the camera on the guy.
I said okay cool. On the helicopter, but I said it was going to cost you.
You did. That's true.
You're our Studio Cinematics Director here at Genvid. We've also spoken to Augustine previously. How do you two complement each other on Ascension?
Yeah, well, he's the show cinematics director, right? So what I do is I break down the script with him, and we kind of come up with what the show is going to look like, what each episode, what each scene is going to like look like and feel like, and then we kind of like, I hit, like I said, all the crazy stuff, and he says, yes, I'll do as much as humanly possible to make all of that make sense, and then he deletes half of it and does something way cooler with his personal artistic bent, and then I verify it and say, oh my God, that was great. You lost the explosions, but you put a giant monster in it, and that's great. So that's kind of how it goes. We work very closely together on every single scene that you see. So if there's a camera in it, we've touched it. We basically are partners on this particular show. Anything that's like core narrative related, through line carrying, he is primarily responsible for. And anything that's like overarching vision, how the show flows from a visual perspective, how our camera language speaks, and that kind of stuff, that mostly starts with me, and then we agree on it and go from there.
Yes, I can definitely vouch for that process. Cheese Rainbow in chat says, resist the merge with the helicopter, it won't end well. And to that I say, skill issue. Get good.
Yeah, turn to the left slightly.
That's all it takes. But speaking of, as I'm paying attention to the chat here, Don will love to answer questions from chat.
Yes.
So guys, if you have stuff, send it to us so that our team can flag it for me, and I can then ask Don. I will be your voice tonight. Use me wisely. Great. So you and Augustine work a lot together on Ascension, as we just covered. Both of you also have another thing in common, which is that you are fans of horror as a genre. So what got you into it?
Well, actually, I'd like to speak on my relationship with Augustine first. We actually met outside of this project. We came together because we knew each other, and then we both entered this project at the same time, the Silent Hill project. Because of our love of horror, we actually came together working on a separate project on an Epic thing with Epic for horror stuff. It's very cool stuff. I am a massive horror fan. I can tell you which frame exactly Hellraiser went bad. I know way too much about horror films. I think that you can probably see some of that in the show, but mostly we're trying to create a whole like new horror aesthetic for Silent Hill from our like film perspective. But yeah, Augustine and I came together basically on horror. If we I do such, it's the Zoom era, right? So I do like some meetings from my home office or my room, and behind me is just like DVDs. And the first time we met, we actually spent time looking, because behind him is a bunch of DVDs, and we're like, oh my God, look, there's this DVD and that DVD, and you like Tetsuo the Iron Man as well, and like all the crazy stuff. So yeah, big horror background. I think my first feature film is a horror film. It starred Jeffrey Combs. It was The Reanimator. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but It's a thing.
I know what that is. Ugh, look at me, cultured. Then we have a couple of people. First of all, I would like to address P Slosh. Don already volunteered as Satyr. Of course, he's joining the Cult of the Merge. But also, we got a couple of people asking for some recommendations.
Oh gosh. Okay. Cool. Let's see. Phase 4. It's Saul Bass's only movie. He's normally like a title designer, so check out Phase 4. Check out, obviously, Clive Barker movies. Go with those if you can. I don't know if Tetsuo the Iron Man is definitely a horror movie, but you should check it out. It kind of has a horror bent to it. Audition is fantastic. Anything from the 80s, like the American like super horror era with like the big three monsters. Go with those. I would, if you're into horror movies and you haven't done so already, and you like Hellraiser, I would actually suggest you read Clive Barker's The Hellbound Heart. It'll give you a lot of context for the lament configuration and all the Ludovico stuff and all that kind of cool stuff. And if you want bonus, on Amazon Prime, you can check out Motivational Growth, which is a movie where Jeffrey Combs plays a giant chunk of talking fungus and happens to be my first film from like a decade ago. Check that out. It's a horror movie, so there you go.
You have me, a talking fungus. Well, hey, speaking of movies you've made, you are primarily a live-action director, so how was it working with cinematic content in a non-traditional way or in a way newer to you?
Yeah, so really weird. Normally, I've used Unreal, which is one of our it's in our tool stack, for virtual production before. So like projecting big backgrounds and stuff in live action, but never as like a primary like film engine. And it's presented incredible challenges, but it's also presented incredible capabilities. Like real-time rendering is ridiculous. I can just throw up lights anywhere. In real life, that's like a 20-minute ask. I want to like make that light, move that light over there. That's 20 minutes. I can just like drag it now. That's cool. So for doing real-time stuff, it's pretty great. I don't know if you've noticed, but the show has like slowly gotten like much better over the course of the season. That's not new or weird or unique to Silent Hill Ascension. I mean, look at the first episode of any of your favorite shows. You got to catch your stride and see how the things work, right? And one of the things we kind of had to catch up to is we're one of a fleet of new media that are using metahumans. Like it's very new to like primarily lean on metahumans, and metahumans are ridiculously cool, but also present some novel problems. Their heads and their bodies are separate, entirely separate objects that stitch together in a very weird way. So when you have a scene like this beautiful thing here, the merge scene, you can't really go naked unless everybody's wearing like dog collars, because like there's definitely a whole meshing scene issue there. There's a beautiful scene where Krista and Eric are kind of like laying head to head, right? The camera is like dead on them, and they just did it. And they're like laying head to head like this. And the original plan was we would do this like spinning camera thing and go really, really cool. And it'd just be this beautiful, the music would raise, the thing would rotate in a frame, and it'd be so unbelievably cool. It'd be two naked bodies, it'd be perfect. And oh my gosh. And then Augustine was like, yeah, but like you can't, because then you just see like a big mesh area. So then we had to just do like a intimate close-up. It's a beautiful intimate close-up now. So we run into those kind of problems, but those aren't novel issues. They're only novel in their mechanics. They're not really novel. I mean, any film or TV thing, you have a billion issues all the time. It's just, I think the benefits outweigh the hazards for sure. We can storyboard, we can list, storyboard, stage, animate, light, and render like a level 1 version of a scene in hours, and that would normally take a whole day if you're doing it live action. So it's pretty fantastic. It's a cool thing. It's definitely, we're catching our legs. I've noticed public sentiment about sort of content and some of the shooting styles and some of the more like we've kind of caught our stride over the last several episodes. I think that you can kind of see us coming into our own there, but it is definitely a challenge. There's never been a project exactly like ours. And I'm pretty sure for the next 5 years or so, every project like this is going to say that, right? Like, because they'll all propose their own unique and interesting challenges. But I think coming into it as a live action director, you're primarily just a problem solver. So solving problems with an awesome team. Augustin and his cinematic artist, his team is awesome. Obviously, Layla, you as a producer are fantastic. So you help me like destroy problems. But it's mostly problem solving. So it's basically just like, like 2 slot cars on the same track and just swapping a track over to we're going to do it in a computer now for today.
Yeah,
I'm glad that answered your question.
No, it was super thorough, and chat is super into it too. You started out with talking about 20 minutes to change out lights, and it took me back to film school, and there's a reason I work digitally now. But we actually have a fun follow-up question. Do you think Unreal could be used for feature production in the future?
In the future, for sure. I think right now it's awesome. I think it really shines where it's being used in large productions now as sort of a volume sort of backdrop kind of thing. It really shines in like really complicated, like large format renders of really cool stuff in real time. And that's fantastic. And it responds well to like LiDAR camera attachments and all the kind of stuff. Well, I actually did a show with GenVid a year ago, 2021, actually. Wow. Thank you, weird pandemic thing. The time is now a flat circle. Some measure of years ago, I did a live action show, and we used Unreal entirely for the whole environment. It was really great. I think that it'll definitely get there for full feature film stuff for sure. It's just I think right now we're one of the rungs on the ladder, right? Like we're the what was it, the Final Fantasy Spirits Within step. Like we're making our way up the ladder of fidelity because there are some challenges that I don't think are inherent to Unreal. I think it's using what was primarily a game engine for TV work, and I think that it's slowly moving there in parallel to its obvious incredible game stuff. So yeah, I don't think you'll get there. I don't think it's tomorrow. I think it's going to take a lot of hard work by awesome artists to like whip it into shape and ride the bull. Right. That's what we've been doing.
Yeah, I was gonna, Augustine, looking at you, King.
Yeah, 100%.
Unreal Champion. Very, very briefly, I will fill in some context for the audience because I know you good folks are likely, statistically speaking, not developers. We're talking about game engines, which is kind of the beating heart of what a specific piece of software or a show. Our show specifically, or traditionally a game, is capable of doing. Right? It is the core that dictates what that specific thing is going to be capable of doing and how it's going to be able to do it. A lot of really talented people work on developing game engines. When we talk about metahumans, that is the specific system for characters, very photorealistic characters that Unreal specifically uses to generate. So we were working very hard to make those work for Ascension. So that is just a little bit of context setting for folks who might not know what we're talking about. But another thing producers do, we love context. So let's see. You mentioned really briefly, we were talking about things like L1 scenes. That's like our internal pipeline. Can you guide us through, like, generally speaking, the steps of composing like a compelling scene?
Yeah. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll obviously read through the scene. We'll get it from narrative. We'll break it down. We'll go step by step, and a show is comprised of scenes. A show is technically comprised of acts. Acts are comprised of scene sequences. Scene sequences are comprised of scenes. Scenes are comprised of shot sequences. Shot sequences are comprised of shots. Shots are comprised of composition. So we kind of break it all the way down that ladder to composition, and we come up with like what's our first shot? What's our last shot? In a tiny little, our daily videos, we want to start with like, what's the opening shot, right? Then we want to end on either a cliffhanger or something that leaves you wanting more, or something that like, oh wow, what an impact shot. So we tend to fall to our first and last shots, and then we work through the scene and figure out like what the actual physical blocking would be just in people. We sketch, we draw a little like diagram. We have the diagrams already like worked out, but I sketch on them on Photoshop, whatever. We work out like where the people are going to walk around, how they're going to sit, how they're going to do just the banal like moving around a scene stuff. And once we lock that out, we hand it to a cinematic artist, and we say we create what we call a shot list, which is like, I want to start on a wide 2-shot, and then when she leans forward, punch into her face, and then like when she looks to her left, go over her shoulder and show what she's looking at, and that kind of thing. And there's a whole cinematic language that we kind of like follow for that, with like priority circles and frame occupancies and like weight priorities and stuff. And we kind of like work all that out as like a structure, like a plot. We hand that to an artist who goes in and says, yeah, that's fine, but like the camera would hit the wall if we did that. So we're going to do something very similar to that. And then they get it back to us in what's called a blocking pass. We call those L1. So the animations are like just dropped in. We have a mocap team. We've done a whole bunch of mocap. We have some of it that we canned. We did a bunch at the top of the show, to general stuff like scratching the head and looking around, like basically around stuff. And some of it we get bespoke. We lay all that together in sort of we just throw it in. So it's all kind of choppy and weird. And it's kind of like watching something really low fidelity. It's like watching a live animatic. And we pick out what we want, how it works or didn't work. And we send it back. They recomposite the whole thing. We do a lighting pass. We do an effects pass, and then we do we get to level 3, where we do a level 3 visual pass, that's where we have lights and atmosphere and post-process. We basically like finish the piece, and then we send it to sound, and then we do a review of that sound thing, and then we send it off. We have the producers look at it and smile, and they never have any problems ever. The producers, they always love it. There's never notes. And then I
love everything, and I have no issues ever. So that all was great. Actually, a great segue. For folks who might be listening and can't keep up with the lingo, right? I'm not going to go through and do a dictionary list of everything Don just said. But what I will say is, a lot of times when you talk to creative professionals, right, like us, it's like you start speaking a little bit of a different language. And earlier we had a really great question from Ate asking how would you kind of what would be one piece of advice for getting started with live action stuff? And I'll let Don give his more technical answer. But for me, from my perspective, one of the best things you can do to get started with any kind of filmmaking or any kind of visual craft is to start observing, right? So Don just gave an incredible film school 101 crash course, listening to people like that, but also something I used to love to do when I was teaching people was playing the trailer game. When you go through a movie trailer that you really like and you start calling out shot compositions or where leading lines are, that's exactly what it sounds like, or the lighting or things like that. So you could start with observing, but once you've mastered observing, Don, somebody wants to get into filmmaking, what is your one piece of advice?
Well, it's really easy. It's not easy. It's the worst. If you want to be a film director, not just in film, live action film, it's got to be your life, because it's mostly pitching and mostly coming with ideas and stuff. But to actually get the craft, to figure out the craft, you all have one of these, right? What did they say for was it Diablo? You all have cell phones, right? Yeah. We all have one of these. This has 3 cameras on it. Oh my God, it's 3. Yeah, and I can tell you, my first feature film was filmed on a camera that was lower fidelity than this camera right here, because it was a decade ago. It was 12 years ago. So you have one. You have a camera already. You can make something with. So go make something. Shoot something. See if it makes sense. See how it feels. Show your friends. Show your parents. Or whatever. If you want to upgrade, there's one of these little boys. This little guy. Watch, he's gonna wake up. Whoop whoop whoop. This little guy's on a gimbal. You get him for a couple $100. Just run around town doing a bunch of crazy stuff. I actually have a cinema camera way over there you can't see, but those are $30,000. Stay away from those till you make a movie, till you get somebody else to buy it for you. But I just start doing stuff, right? Layla's totally correct. You have to watch movies to make movies. Watch everything. Watch bad movies. Don't walk out of anything. Don't turn anything off. If you hate it, that's better for you. Find out what you hate about it and don't do that. Spend your time figuring out the language of cinema. Read a book or two, but I'm not going to be the those who can't do teach guy. But if they weren't making their money making movies, they wouldn't be making books. So go look at the movies and figure out the cinematic language. Then make your own path. Go make a movie. There are thousands of film festivals every year. They'll take movies shot on iPhone. Go do it. Make sure you have audio. You can get a Rode. I'm using a Rode wireless mic right now. I got it for $200. That's easy. Today, it's easy. When I first started making movies, you had to get a guy, and you had to have a vest, and they had to have all the stuff. Right now is the best time to go make a thing. So I think Robert Rodriguez said, to be a filmmaker, just say you're a filmmaker. I think that's a privileged answer from somebody who was struck by lightning and got free ticket into Hollywood. But it's a good start.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring us back full circle to something we were talking about earlier, which is to say that the thing you're learning when you're learning any kind of craft, filmmaking, audio design, whatever you want to do, the core thing you should be focusing on is learning how to solve the problems you're trying to solve to tell the story that you're going to tell. Your tools can come later. You can develop preferences for tools whenever you want. Yeah. Like Don said, there's so much available on the market right now, and you could
need a Red camera. You don't need an Alexa. You don't need any of that. The best filmmakers on earth can make something on an iPhone.
Absolutely. Well, as we're kind of coming to the end of our time together in this context, we have so much more time together at our actual jobs. I have a preference question for you, which is to say, what has been your favorite scene so far, either to make or to observe, or both?
Yeah, I'm gonna answer both. They're not the same. To make, honestly, I know there have been some like mixed social emotions, but the endurance scene were like a blast to make, man. Like it was just like, hey, here's a playground, throw monsters in it, make somebody jump through 3 hoops and dive through a thing and grab a thing and run around and then expect that a person's gonna interact with it. That was a really fun and creative endeavor. I think that if you have a minute, because you guys are here, you play, you check it out, you watch the show, take some time and just look at the shots in the next endurance sequence you guys play. Just look at, that's a lot of artists spend a lot of time coming up with some really interesting ways to get you stuck next to a monster and then run away from a monster. Whether or not the tapping is your favorite thing or whatever, look at the art of it. So I think that was really fun to make. I think my favorite scene to watch so far, outside of the merge, the morgy as we call it, right? The merging ceremony. Outside of that, I think it was we just released it. The scene where Rachel takes Barbara, ties her to a chair, and beats the hell out of her. The music is just hitting perfectly. We finally get to see Rachel like express herself. She's not been like victim, like she's been pretty pushy, but she's never really been able to like get past like being served by something. So she's ripped her eye out. She's going all bonkers. Everything's crazy. And finally, like, oh, you're the bad guy. Okay, I'll tie you to a chair, punch you in the face. I think it's just like it comes kind of out of nowhere. It feels really like intense. It feels like I was telling the team earlier. It feels like one of those Korean revenge movies, right? Like Old Boy or something. Like
we're talking about Old Boy today.
Rachel with the hammer, just like going to town. I just think it's a really awesome expression. The show's violent already, so I'm not like, oh my God, violence. That's not it. It's really just seeing that character kind of take her first like step to like penetrate the wall that's been holding her back and really like exert herself. She cares about she cares about Eric, she cares about her kid, and this lady is effectively potentially the architect of everything. Who knows where it's going. I don't. But yeah, I think that it's really fun to see that kind of like punch, and I want to be the future fairy and let you know that like there's more stuff like that to come. It's going to be intense and crazy, and your mind's going to explode.
Absolutely, we love exploding minds. Well, hey, as we wind down, any final messages for the audience?
I hope you guys are enjoying the show. There's a lot of people here. We're working really hard to give you something that you like. We do pay attention to what you're saying. We're getting better as we go. But again, that's totally normal. Go watch the second episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation if you want to throw up in your own hat. Like this is just like TV stuff, but we have a direct access to you guys, and that's not normal. That's new, and I think that's really cool. We're making something with you, not just for you. So enjoy what we're doing if you can, and keep being vocal about what you think. We are reading it, and we do love your opinions.
Absolutely. The community is kind of the whole thing about this,
That's
that's
the point. Yeah.
Production, I don't know if we have a final slide with some socials to revisit as we kind of head out. But I will give you a second whether or not that's happening. But hey, thank you, Don, so much for joining me here on the hosted show. It's good to have another person from inside the production to chat with. I loved this time. Feel like we've bonded, and on Monday we'll bond some more, solving more.
Oh yeah. Well, thanks for having me, and it's been really cool talking to the audience.
Yeah, thank you all so much for joining us tonight, and have a foggy night. Perhaps. Are we still on? Okay. Oh, great. We'll sit here and smile. Okay, while production is busy, so I'll just review the run of show with you guys. If you guys are going to sit, if you guys want to come back, every weekday at 6 p.m., you're going to see Silent Hill Ascension. If you want to revisit us for the pre and post shows, that is 5:40 p.m. And then after the Endure, you can come back for the post show. Usually they end, but today we're having some technical difficulties, which means you get to stare at mine and Dawn's face for a little while longer.
You ask a question, I'll answer another question.
Yeah, audience, what?